Neil Brown wrapped up his fifth Golden Blue game today, spring game football, and possibly his final spring football, as we all know. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. I'm Joey Foster. We are live for you today, wrapping up the post game of our West Virginia Mountaineer spring game. Overall, it was a great game. If anybody got to see it, it was on ESPN Plus. I do know there's some replays out on YouTube now. If you did not catch it, that you can catch the game on. But yes, we had a great game today. I was really excited. I've got some great game notes for you. But first, I'm going to go over what we did as far as like the competition schedule. So the competition schedule looked like this. First off was kickoff challenges. And then there was red zones one-on-one, pass pro, pass rush, special teams final or finale, punt, field goal challenge, and coaches call 2-point plays. Also, today we had one-on-ones where we were 2 points, touchdowns were worth 6 points, 3 and outs were worth 7 points for defense. Defensive stops equal 3 points. Defensive turnovers equal 7 points. Field goals equal 3 points. And then it was 2-point conversions. There's 2-yard line was 1 point. So what they did the XFL style for extra points. So if you got an extra point from 2-yard line you got a point. If you did a 2-point conversion for a 5-yard line, you got 2 points, and a 2-point the conversion from the 10-yard line gave you 3 points. So that was a little twist to the action today too. So anyway, welcome in everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. Appreciate having you guys here with us today. Welcome in. This will be a live call-in show. I'm hoping to be joined here shortly by Nick DTV. He's on vacation. He's running a little bit late, as you can understand if you guys are on vacation right now. But I do have some stats to go over with you. It was a great game. I enjoyed it. Final score, gold 56, blue 51. Best play call of the game, this is my opinion only, was the fake reverse run. Winston Wright, wide receiver Preston Fox threw the ball to quarterback Garrett Green on a fake reverse. So it was a beautiful play. Went for a touchdown by Garrett Green. So that was probably the best play call. That was back in the first quarter, probably one of the first plays of the game. They did a reverse, and they faked it and acted like they were going to do the reverse, but they ran it around the edge. Then they ran a fake reverse where they actually ran the reverse, but Preston Fox threw the ball to Garrett Green for a touchdown. That was probably the best play of the game. I enjoyed watching that one. Best catch was, in my opinion, once again, Cole Taylor in the second quarter caught a deep ball from Nico Marchio. Nicely thrown ball. Great catch. That was probably my favorite catch of the game. The best stop of the game. There were several stops in this game, but the best one was in the first quarter. I thought it was a 3 and out in the first quarter. It was a coverage sack. Everybody down the field was coverage, and why that was my best stop of the game is if anybody remembers last year, man, we couldn't stop nobody. Everybody would be the middle of the field was wide open. Then we wouldn't have no coverage. So I was really excited to see that our coverage was much better today and looked pretty good on defense. Best run of the day, Jaheim White, a 53-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter, but 9:04 left in the fourth quarter, and that was a nice run. Jaheim White took the handoff, busted up the middle, looked like he was going to be stopped, broke loose, broke free, scrambled around a little bit, took off for 53 yards. Nice run. My second favorite run of the game was C.J. Donaldson, had a 7-yard touchdown run in the third quarter, and just looked like the old C.J. Donaldson that we know and love. He busted right around the edge, shot up through there, and found the open hole and hit it really hard and fast. Went in for a touchdown. Best pass of the game, in my opinion, Garrett Green to Devon Carter in the third quarter, right over Jacoby Spells. Beautiful pass. Jacoby Spells Got beat a little bit on it by Devin Carter, but it was a nice pass from Garrett Green down the field to Devin Carter. Best defensive pass, best defense against the pass. Montreal Miller covered Braham in the second quarter during a deep pass. That was a nice coverage there. And Malachi Ruffin in the second quarter had a nice deep pass breakup as well. And so, like I said, our secondary looked 100 times better than it did last year, and I really enjoyed that. At also the best sack, in my opinion, Lee Copa had a sack on Garrett Green when he was scrambling. So Garrett Green got the ball, scrambled out to his right, ended up one-on-one with Lee Copa. Lee Copa dropped him for a 6-yard loss. Of course, wasn't allowed to touch the quarterback, but he would have got him anyway. I mean, Lee Copa had him dead rights, and that was a nice coverage sack too, because everybody was covered up down the field. He had nowhere to go with the ball, and he was left one-on-one against Lee Copa, and Lee Copa won that. The best worst play of the game, and if that makes sense to you. So Jalen Shelton, number 17, dropped an interception in his hand in the fourth quarter it was right in his hands. He should have got it. He made a great play on the ball. He was in the right position and just dropped the interception. So that was my best worst play of the game. Best newcomer in the game. Hey, how about Jimmy Bell? And talking about a newcomer. He just joined the team two or 3 weeks ago. Hasn't played football since 2016. He's a senior, but he's a basketball player. We just got him in from as on the transfer portal, and he hasn't played football since high school in 2016. And he played right tackle today, done a nice job, and he towers over everyone. He is huge. He's one big guy, and he played a nice game. And about the time I wrote that down for best newcomer, about the time I wrote my note on that, he got a 10-yard penalty for holding. So, but that's okay. Like I say, he hadn't played since 2016, so it was a great job by him. So overall today, there were 31 different tacklers, 6 different passers, 10 different rushers, 12 different receivers, and there were over 60 different recorded statistics from those all around the ball. So one of the best spring games I've seen out of West Virginia since probably 2011, maybe 2018. I can remember after the 2011 game. If anybody remember the score of that? That was it seems to me like it was 81-17. The offense just absolutely destroyed our defense in 2011. So that was an exciting one. This one was better because it was close. Defense looked good. Offense looked good. I would like to see a little bit more out of our quarterbacks. What I wanted to see is, I hate the fact that you can't tackle the quarterback, and you got to call it dead if they get within a yard or two of them, right? They call it a sack. There was many times I felt like Garrett Green and Nico would have scrambled out of that and not been sacked, and it was called down. So I would have really liked that. I'm going to put the StreamYard link down here in the chat. If anybody would like to join me and talk about the spring game, that'd be fine. I'd love to have you in here. Come on in and join me. Tell me what you thought about the spring game. And in the meantime, a shout out to the chat here. Let me go down through and see what we got with us. Appreciate all of you being here. So we have Ben Adams. Thanks, Ben, for being here. Caves, the realist. He says, do they not play defense at all? I thought the defense was well improved. Ed Daughtry, typical Big 12, no defense played. Yeah, but I still think it will improve. David Cummings, thanks for being here. Hopefully a lot of the good things we saw today will continue to improve into the fall. Garrett Green played very well. And that he did, David. I agree with you. Alan Aaron, thanks for being here. He says, let's go WVU Mountaineers and Marshall Thundering Herd. Always makes us say Marshall Thundering Herd. Silas, thanks for being here. He says, let's go. Todd Gwynn says, hi, Joey. Hi, Todd. Thanks for being here. Trey Baker, I'm so excited about the upcoming season, as am I. Christian, my man Joey, hope you're doing well. I am doing great, Christian. Thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody that's in with us. If I missed somebody, I apologize. You're here with us. Thank you so much. Join me here at StreamYard. I posted the StreamYard link. Come in and tell me what you thought about the game. Or type your question in the chat if you have one, or a comment in the chat. I'll be happy to put it up on the screen and read it. Um, Thank you guys for being here. But yes, we had a. I thought it was overall the vibe of the spring game was great, right? I mean, they got the fans involved. We had a lot of fan participation. Had girls kicking field goals. They did a good job. That one girl could kick a ball, couldn't she? I started thinking, man, maybe I'll line her up and let her kick a 20-yard field goal and see what happens. She could kick a ball. She was pretty good. We had some kids participating and stuff. We had some one-on-one matchups from grown men just getting out there with no pads or helmets and just going at each other. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game. Now, Rim Baker said at halftime, and this was something that got me excited. So Rim Baker announced at halftime that the chemistry on the football field at practice with these kids is great, and I trust Rim Baker. He's not going to get on there and say something like that if it's not true. So there's no culture problem at West Virginia. It looks good still with the culture. The spirit's up of the kids. That's great. So I'm excited about that. I appreciate Rim Baker making that point out today and bringing that to us. But yeah, overall, just a great game. Homicero, thanks for being here. He says, hello, Joy Mountaineer fans and all my fellow college football fanatics. Yes, Homicide. Thanks for being here, buddy. But I want to know, does everybody agree with me on okay, which was your favorite run? Was it Jaheim White 53-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter? That was a nice run. I mean, because it looked like he was going to be balled up there at the line and they was going to tackle him. He wasn't going to get anywhere. And he broke loose and took off, and that was a nice run. But that C.J. Donaldson run for 7 yards in the third quarter, that was against starters. And C.J. looked like he was back in true form. I'm really excited about C.J. Donaldson this year. I think that the sky's the limit for this kid. He's without a doubt one of the best running backs I've seen come through West Virginia since I've been watching Mountaineer football. That's been since the 70s. I'm not saying that he is he our next Adrian Morrell or somebody? I'm not sure about that. You know, I mean, we've had some great backs in the past. Eugene Napoleon, Adrian Morrell, Amos Zeraway. Is he those guys? No, not really, because he's not the shifty type of guy. He's a straight ahead runner, gets through the line, hits the hole, and takes off. And his speed is deceiving because of his size, right? So, you know, and hard to tackle. I just think that he's going to be such a great running back. And now, don't forget, guys, he can catch a ball. He was a tight end. He's recruited as a tight end. Chad Scott seen something in this kid to put him at running back. And so I'm excited about Chad Scott as well, running the offense this year. I thought the offense looked a little bit better. They looked more organized. What was there, one penalty the whole game? And that was a holding call on Jimmy Bell, who has only been on campus for a few weeks and is a basketball player. So, yeah, I thought everything looked great as far as that was concerned. We looked fundamentally sound. Our defensive coverage was a lot better. The play calling looked a lot better. The quarterbacks, that's what I hate about spring games. You can't judge the quarterbacks. I'd like to say that Garrett Green looked great or Nico Marchio looked great. Honestly, I can't. I think they both looked decent, but they both had some overthrows. They both threw the ball short a couple of times. They you know, and they both took some sacks. So but you can't judge that in the spring game because, like I say, a player gets within a couple of yards of the quarterback, they blow it dead, and he might have broke loose. Any of them might have broke loose. How about this in the chat? Tell me about the play back in the first quarter, the fake reverse run, and when Preston Fox threw the ball back to Garrett Green, who was streaking down the field. Man, that was a nicely designed play, and great execution on that. And Garrett Green ended up scoring a touchdown off of it. What they call it, the Philly special, because I think they're both from Philadelphia. So it was Preston Fox throwing it to Garrett Green, our quarterback. Yeah, so I want to know if you guys want to come in here with me and just talk about it a little bit. Bail me out, guys. There's not a lot to talk about. It's a spring game, right? Not a lot to get excited about, but enough to build on. Enough there to say, hey, we can build on this. We can move forward with this and everything. So I'm excited about that. One more time, I'll post the StreamYard link in here. If anybody would like to come in and join me, you don't have to be on camera, guys. StreamYard's real easy. Just click on the link. It'll talk you through. You'll just type your name in. You don't have to give nothing with no other information. Just type your name in. You can turn your camera off. Come in here. I might ask you to turn your camera on in the back room for me, just to make sure that you know that you are a legitimate person and things. And then I'll bring you in and you can ask your questions. Otherwise, type in some questions in the chat. Let me know what you thought. The pass from Garrett Green to Devon Carter in the third quarter, right over Jacoby Spells. Jacoby Spells got beat a little bit there. And Jacoby had been playing really good. He made some great plays during the game and had some great defensive coverage. So I was really excited about that. So Garrett Green threw the ball to Devon Carter right over Jacoby Spells. Devon Carter had him beat a little bit, had a step or two on him. That was in the third quarter. The other thing that stood out to me, and let me look at my notes here. I'm going to make sure I've got the name right. Montreal Miller covered Graham in the second quarter on a deep pass, stride for stride, right there with him. Malachi Ruffin in the second quarter also had a nice deep pass breakup, right stride for stride with the receiver, right to the side. Last year, we would not have seen that, guys. The receivers would have been past them, or there would have been somebody wide open in the middle of the field. They would have thrown it short or thrown it for 10 yards. I know a lot of people say, well, typical Big 12 game, 56-51, no defense. There was a lot of defense. The defense scored points. They scored 51 points. So there was a lot to be proud of with our defense. So the offense ended up winning 56-51. But when the defense is scoring 51 points, that means there's some 3 and outs. There's some stops. There's some pass breakups. There's some sacks, because you get points for all that stuff. And that goes to show you that they did a really nice job. I was really proud of them. What player am I looking forward to watching this year? So on defense, in the absence of Dante Steele, who's going to replace them? I don't know. And in the absence of Jordan Jefferson as well, because he hit the transfer portal. Who's going to replace him? I don't know. But Lee Copa seemed to do a pretty nice job out one-on-one, getting Green for a 6-yard loss on the sack. So that was really surprising because Garrett Green can be really shifty, right? And he's really quick, and he can get around you. Lee Copa squared him up, had him dead to rights. Of course, he didn't tackle him because you can't tackle the quarterback, but there was no way Garrett Green was going to get away from him. So that was exciting. What am I excited about on offense? C.J. Donaldson, without a doubt. I mean, this kid is going to be so good. And I'm really looking forward to watching him again this year. I hope he can stay healthy. Unfortunately, last year he suffered an injury after the first part of the season. Wasn't able to play much the second part of the season. We lost a lot of production when we lost him. But we have some great – look, we are 4 deep back there, right? Because there's no doubt. Our first two, C.J. Donaldson is probably the best of the group of four running backs. But there's great quarterbacks, great running backs back there. You go back and look at Jalen Anderson. I mean, he had some great runs today as well, and he's a great running back. Tony Mathis, great running back. I mean, he's quick and shifty. He's not the C.J. Donaldson guy, the shifty type guy, but really done a nice job. Really proud of all of our running backs. Proud of Chad Scott, our running back coach, now being the offensive coordinator. That's exciting to see because I like Chad Scott. If you get a chance, go and watch Chad Scott mic'd up on YouTube. They mic him up, and he's got a couple of videos out on YouTube. Really a great coach, and I like him. So I was really disappointed in Jalen Shelton not getting that interception today in the fourth quarter. In the perfect position, coverage was really good. The pass was not on target, but the ball was right in his hand, and he should have intercepted it. So I hate that. So, Mark's in the room. Mark, thanks for being here. I see him saying talk West Virginia football with joy. Sure. You guys come on in and join me here in the StreamYard. Type your questions in if you have a question. Like I say, over 31 different tacklers today. Last year, we probably didn't have 31 tacklers total the whole year. I don't even know if we tackled last year. Does anybody know? No, I'm serious. It was just today was just such an improvement on defense. I was really excited about that. Six different passers, including Preston Fox, wide receiver, throwing the pass to Garrett Green for a touchdown on a nice play. So we got to see some really, really young quarterbacks. And unfortunately, I can't remember the last one we seen's name. I heard of him when they put him in, but his name's not coming to me right now. We got to see 10 different rushers. Guys, we were so deep at running back. It's crazy. But it was great. And we got to see 12 different receivers. So I think our tight end play is going to improve. Not saying that we did a lot of tight end plays today, but I was watching kind of like when we had tight ends in the game. We had some great blocks. We had some great plays down the field, getting away from some guys. So I think we're holding back on throwing it to the tight ends in the spring game to not show our hand. I really think our tight end room is going to be really, really good as well. So any weakness did I see? Yeah, I did see some weakness. I seen some weakness on both sides of the ball, on offense and defense. On defense, I kind of worry about our line a little bit. I kind of worry about our defensive line. They got pushed around a little bit up front. And not all the time, but they did get pushed around a little bit. So I kind of worried about our defensive front. On offense, I'll be honest, I'm not sold on our quarterbacks. And I know it's a spring game. There's not much to look at, but I'm not sold on either one of them. Not Garrett Green, not Nico Marcio. I think they're both just still young. Garrett Green's got the most experience. Nico looks like he's going to be the starting quarterback. And Nico didn't look good today, in my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think about that. If you think Nico did a great job, hey, I'm right there with you. Okay, that'd be fine. But I do not believe that. I believe that's our weakness this year is our quarterback. Now, can Garrett Green get out of the habit during the games to make more than one read? When he's in the game, if he is our starting quarterback, is he going to do more than one read before he takes off running? Because he has to do that. He has to go through his progressions before he decides to run. Now, mind you, if the pocket's collapsing on him when he's got to, I understand that. But he's got to stand in that pocket, maybe scramble out of it, and keep his eyes downfield and go through his progressions before taking off running. Last year, he didn't do that. And that worries me that we're going to get back to that this year if he's the starter. Nico Marcio, on the other hand, he's had some nice drives in practice. They was touting on him the other day, talking about him, Neil Brown, talking about how great he was in practice, had 2 long drives for touchdowns. We didn't see that today. I mean, yes, we did see some drives and things, but, Nico didn't look informed to me today. And maybe they were holding him back. Maybe they weren't giving him the passing plays that they're going to be running with him either. Like I said, you don't want to tip your hat too much in the spring game. We didn't see a lot of tight end involvement. We did see a lot of receivers involved. We see a lot of deep balls thrown. We've seen some good coverage down the field, one-on-one from the defense. So, like I say, a lot to take away from this game, a lot of excitement around Morgantown this year. I think that excitement goes two ways, though, right? So there's people that are excited saying, okay, this could be the year that Neil Brown is able to break out and give us an 8-4, 9-3 season. Then there's the excitement on the other hand that's exciting disappointment, right? Everybody's excited about the season, but they're cautiously optimistic, for lack of a better word, right? They're excited, but they're cautiously optimistic on what's going to happen this year. I really feel like that this year is a key point for the future of these kids. Because if we have another bad year like last season, I'm afraid that we will lose some transfers. I'm afraid we could lose Nico Marcio. I'm afraid we could lose C.J. Donaldson and some of these big recruits that we've gotten over the last couple of years. They may move on. So this is a key year. As a fan, do I want to see us win? Yes. But as a fan, I want to see us keep our football players in the program So I want them to be winners, right? I don't want them to look bad because of coaching. And as a fan, I want to see uh, our coaching improve as well, just overall as a fan, but more so for those kids. Those kids deserve a great coach. So let's hope that Neil Brown. I've always said Neil Brown's a great coach, Sunday through Friday, right? Great recruiter, great with the kids. Everybody loves him. Everybody likes him. He's got great culture at West Virginia. Everybody's real friendly. But then on Saturdays, he can't coach a game, right? How many times did we see bad calls last year? I just think that in the this year, going into this year, Neil Brown has to coach like he's never coached before. He's got to get out of his group of five thinking when he was at Troy, and he's got to buckle down and say, "This is it. I got to save my job, and I can't open up a season at 1-3, right? We can't beat. We're going to beat Duquesne. There's no doubt. We're probably going to lose to Penn State. We all expect that. The whole nation expects that. If we could pull that win out, that'd be great. But most likely not going to happen. Going to Happy Valley, you're not going to pull a win out over Penn State. Not this year, when I think Penn State's probably the best team in the Big Ten this year. My opinion again. So we're probably not going to beat Penn State. But the next week we play Duquesne. Now we're 1-1, right? And going into the Pitt game, he has to win the Pitt game in Morgantown this year. If he loses that game, Neil Brown, the windbreaker won't have to fire Neil Brown. The fans will fire him. There's no doubt in my mind. So, all right. So, Alan Aaron has a comment up here. Thanks, Alan. He says, I believe that we're in good hands at running back and quarterback. The biggest concern is going to be at wide receiver. I agree. We've got some young guys at wide receiver. We've got some talent. They're talented guys. Preston Fox. So, he's a walk-on that earned a scholarship last year, right? So Preston Fox had a great spring game last year. We didn't see a lot out of him this spring game. He did throw the pass to Garrett Green down the field on a nice reverse, fake reverse play. So I think our wide receivers need to step their game up as well. And see, that's where on a spring game you're cautiously optimistic when I'm saying our defense was able to cover and look better. Well, you got to look at the receivers they're going up against, right? These are all young guys. These are all freshmen and sophomores. We don't have the big time seniors there right now. We don't have that. So we've got to take it with a grain of salt that our coverage was better, but at the same time maybe take a little bit out of it and get excited and say, well, they couldn't cover anything last year. They couldn't cover anything. So this year looked a lot better. Josh Bazin says Penn State is favored by 17 points over West Virginia on September 2nd. I would have thought it'd been more than that, to be honest with you, Josh. I would have thought it'd be more than that. Look, Penn State's. I know everybody gives James Franklin a hard time up there, mainly the Penn State fans. James Franklin's a great coach. Penn State's not had any bad years really since he's been there. They're playing in Big Ten. You're playing Ohio State. You're playing Michigan's and stuff. You're not going to be a dominant team every year. This year, though, Penn State might have the team to win the Big Ten. I'm telling you, I think they're sneaky good. So they've got some great talent up there, and I know they've got a great coach, in my opinion. So anyway, well, I wanted to come on and just give a little spring game wrap-up. I don't see anybody tuning in. Nobody joining me here in the StreamYard. I don't see anybody else in any chats. So we'll just make this a quick 30-minute wrap-up here. I appreciate everyone being here. Final score today was 56-51, and West Virginia was looking decent on both offense and defense. Can't take a lot away from the spring game. But, yes, very excited about this season. Hope that the trend can continue. We got to trust the climb, right? We have to trust the climb. Unfortunately, that climb ended with me last year, unfortunately. But I'm still going to go back to trusting it and saying, okay. I do see some people chiming in here, chatting real quick. Let's see. Josh Bajan says, I plan on traveling to Morgantown in 2024. So I was inquiring about the best spots or hotels to go to. Well, I'll be honest with you. Stay in Fairmont or stay in Bridgeport. I wouldn't stay in Morgantown. I would stay in Fairmont or Bridgeport, somewhere around there. You'll get better prices on hotels for one. Number two, it's a quick, drive up Interstate 79 there to get right into Morgantown. Get off Star City and be right there at the stadium. I mean, that's what I always do. Now I live up that way. I live around the Fairmont area. It's nothing for me to jump on the interstate, go up there, get off Star City, be at the football game in 35, 40 minutes on a game day. So, um, Alan Aaron says, uh, cool, it went down to 17. At one time, Penn State was favored by 19. Well, that means there's some money being placed on West Virginia. That's cool. John Kelly, thanks for being here, brother. John Kelly says, love the atmosphere at the game today. Guess we'll see how it goes, Joey. John, was you able to go to the game? Was you there, man? I wasn't able to go up there. I'm down in Beckley right now, but so I didn't go up to the game. David Cummins says we are going to have to use a 2-quarterback system. David, I agree with you. I think we are going to have to use a 2-quarterback system because I don't know that we've got. I don't know that we have the quarterback to be the overall starter. Nico Marco is just too young. Garrett Green is just run first oriented. It seems like to me. I like Garrett Green. He throws a great ball, but he doesn't go through his progressions. Doesn't read his progressions very well, and he'll hold the ball too long and take a sack, or he'll just take off running. So a 2-quarterback system would be great. I agree with you there. John Kelly says he watched it on ESPN Plus, like some of the dual threat formations. Yeah, I watched it on ESPN Plus as well, John Kelly. That's how I watched the game, and the dual threat formations were pretty good. Like I say, my favorite play of the game was the fake reverse when Preston Fox threw the pass back to Garrett Green. That was almost one of the first plays of the game. Josh Brazen says, we are Penn State. NBC night game at 7:30 p.m. for Big Ten Saturday night. What's your favorite West Virginia team ever? My favorite team ever, my favorite team was probably 1988. Major Harris, gosh, I just remember everybody. I got so many friends off that team too, because I'm a good friend with Joel Wolfley. I'm good friends with Eugene Napoleon. I've got so many friends off that team, but I've got friends off other teams too. Adrian Morrell's a good friend, and Brian Josviak's a great friend. But the 1988 team was something special, simply because it kind of took West Virginia to the top, somewhere we had never been before. Right? We had never reached that. We did it again in '93, and with a far less talented team than we had in '88. And we could have done it again in 2007, but unfortunately, everybody knows how that season turned out with the loss there at the end of the pit. Now, my favorite team overall, though, had to be '88. Second favorite team, without a doubt, Pat White, Steve Slayton, 2007. After that, we're going to go into Geno Smith, Tavon Austin, them guys, 2011, 2012 era. I can't get into favorite teams because they're all my favorite teams. I'll be honest with you. Every time I watch West Virginia play, that's my favorite team of all time, honestly. But that '88 team was just something special, mainly because we had never been there before. I know where we came from. I know where we were in the '70s under Bobby Bowden. I know where we were when Don Nehlen took over the program in 1980. Got to go to some of those games in the early '80s and things up through the years. That '88 team, man, that took us to the top. And West Virginia, honestly, hasn't looked back since then. We've had some bad seasons here and there, but nothing on this drought like we've been on for the last 3-4 years, right? Nothing like that. So I'm hoping that Neil Brown can turn the corner this year. If not, I love him, wish him well, but he's got to go. And Ren Baker, I think, will make that decision and hopefully bring us in a great coach. I'd like to know who you guys think should replace Neil Brown should he fail and be fired. John Kelly says, well, have to use some trickery in some tight games this year, especially in those road games at Houston, Penn State, and Oklahoma. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough trickery in the book to beat Penn State and Happy Valley this year. But I'm not downgrading our team. Can we hang with Penn State? Yes, there's no doubt about it. I think it'd be a good game. But Penn State, it's just a far better, more talented team than we are right now. Better coach team than we are right now, and probably the best team in the Big Ten, if you ask me. Josh Bajan says Major Harris and Pat White were awesome. Great destruction of the Sooners. Yes, that's for sure. I love that game. That I watch that game every year, 2 or 3 times a year. Um, the runaway beer truck, Owen Schmidt, man, just amazing. Him getting that ball and rumbling down the field. That was a great game against the Sooners that year in 2007. Um, that that was without a doubt one of the best victories, other than the victory over Clemson in 2012 Orange Bowl. But yeah, that Oklahoma victory was something special that year because nobody gave us a chance, right? Oklahoma was a top 5 team. West Virginia had been a top 5 team pretty much all year, and I think they had fallen to 11th after the loss to Pitt. Oklahoma was favored, gosh, by a lot, and nobody gave us a chance. Well, just like Owen Schmidt said in that game, if you looked at the map, the whole United States map was covered in red except for one state, and it was covered in blue, and that was the state was West Virginia. Without a doubt, the best victory, one of the best victories in the history of our program. Playing Penn State reminds me of the 80s years as an independent. Yeah, John Kelly. I was talking about that the other day. So does everybody remember the Beast of the East? Remember they were saying Beast of the East? So every year there was a Beast of the East, right? And it would be 90% of the time is Joe Paterno and Penn State, right? They were the Beast of the East. But occasionally you had Boston College, they had Doug Flutie and things. They were the Beast of the East. You had your Virginia Tech at times that was a Beast of the East, and you had some other teams that were Beast of the East. West Virginia was Beast of the East quite a bit. They were Beast of the East in the '88 team. They were Beast of the East in '93. They were Beast of the East quite a few times. So, yeah, that was the old days of the Beast of the East, and West Virginia was the Beast of the East, without a doubt. And those games. One thing I told a Miami fan the other day, I said, it's funny. Miami was never the Beast of the East. They might have been. They might have won the Big East championship. Nobody ever called them the Beast of the East. I don't remember that ever happening. All right. Josh Bezos says, "How is West Virginia looking going into the new Big 12? Will West Virginia go to the ACC?" Look, there's been a lot of speculation about that. Bottom line, the ACC's got such a contract written up with their teams. West Virginia will lose money going to the ACC. The only thing that would make it feasible for West Virginia to go to the ACC is if Notre Dame went with them and joined football-wise. In my opinion, I don't see anybody else that West Virginia could join with and actually help raise the money in the ACC. West Virginia wouldn't drop the money in the ACC by any doubt if they just took them in, right? They could take West Virginia and get the same amount of money. They wouldn't make them lose money. But you want that money to go up. If the ACC is going to expand to take on a team, they want an increase in revenue. That would keep Florida State happy. That would keep Miami happy. That would keep Clemson happy. So they need an increase in revenue. They're not looking West Virginia's way because they're not going to get an increase in revenue there. They're going to get about the same revenue they're getting now. So if they could get Notre Dame, who unfortunately is not going to come into the ACC, not going to join a conference it doesn't look like at all for the foreseeable future. But if they could, then by all means, yes, West Virginia should go to the ACC and go in with Notre Dame. Yeah, that would be a great thing. Josh Bajan says, Requiem of the Big East. Yeah, great show. Great show. Yeah, I enjoyed watching that. Alan Aaron says, my favorite W team was the team that crushed Clemson in the Orange Bowl. Yeah, that's Tavon Austin, Geno Smith. Stedman Bailey. my gosh, Stephen Bailey, he had such a great career, not only at West Virginia, but had a great career in the NFL, and the future was looking so bright for him. Took a trip on vacation to Miami, got caught in the drive-by shooting, got shot in the head. People didn't think he was going to make it, and pulled through. He comes back to Morgantown. He's been helping us out up there off and on. Needed to hire him as a coach, in my opinion. Needed to hire him as a coach. But I can also understand there may be some liability there involved with that. If he was to get hit on the sidelines or something because he's got plates in his head. So maybe there's some liability. That's why they're not hiring him. But yeah, great player, Stephen Bailey. Tavon Austin, of course, just retired from the NFL. But great player. And Geno tearing it up in the NFL finally. And we all knew he had it in him, right? Geno Smith was an awesome quarterback. He come out. His problem was he got drafted by the Jets. And I knew right away that was a train wreck. I think everybody knew right away that was a train wreck. They couldn't protect nobody. And I could use some choice words here. I'm not going to. But they could not protect anybody. And so they take Geno Smith, who's a great quarterback, great passer, and he fails out at the Jets, transfers over a couple of teams, and nobody's giving this kid an opportunity. Finally, Pete Carroll says, hey, giving you a chance, man. Get out there and do it. What did he do? He showed the NFL, right? He wasn't holding nothing back. Like you said, everybody wrote him letters, but he didn't write back, right? John D'Amato, thanks for being here, brother. How'd it go? It went great, man. West Virginia offense won 56-51. So it was a good game. It was a great game. I liked everything I seen out of both sides of the ball. Josh Bazin, Notre Dame will go to the Big Ten with pressure coming from USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Maybe. That's a possibility. I don't think it will. I don't think they will. I think the driving force for Notre Dame to join a conference was the new the new rules for playoff. So it's expanded to 12 teams, but in order to get a bye week, you have to win your conference, right? If they're not in a conference, they can't get a bye week. So that would have been a driving force for Notre Dame to join a conference, and that didn't drive them to a conference. So I don't believe anything else is going to drive them there either. That's the way of those questions. Love it. Yeah, Mark, thanks for being here, buddy. Mark saying Alan Aaron and Josh Bajan blasting away those questions. Love it. Yes, sir. I do too. David Cummins, happy anniversary, Joey. I saw that. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you. Yes, my wife and I celebrating 23 years together today, and it was been wonderful years. I mean, we have never. I couldn't tell you the last time that my wife and I got into even the smallest argument about anything. She's real supportive of me. I'm real supportive of her. I've got YouTube, and I've got a lot of things that I do on YouTube. She understands that, and she's good at spending my money. So no, I'm just kidding. She's a great woman, guys, and appreciate that, David. Mark says I talk to college football fans and media all over the country, and W is probably the most underrated program historically. People don't realize what W has accomplished until I run it down. And Mark's going to do that as well. And so Mark's going to have a great show coming up, talking about different things. So like, and Mark, I'd appreciate it if you could come in and tell us what you're calling the show, because I can't remember the name of it. But it's going to be talking about seasons that ended with like debate. All right. So 1988, what if Major Harris had not been hurt in that national championship game? Would West Virginia have won the national championship? And what would that have done to the program going forward had West Virginia won the national championship in 88? We would be probably a lot further ahead than we are right now. Although we're not that far behind, guys. I mean, we've been right there in the national championship hunt for a lot of years, right? I can remember 2006, we were talked about for national championship. We didn't get there, obviously, but for half a year we were. 2007, obviously, we were the whole time, and 2018, we were talked about it pretty much the whole season. 2017, we were talked about at the beginning of the season, and we got Mark coming in, man. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you coming in, brother.
Hey, Joey. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of your show. I was trying to think of what you were going to call it when you're talking about the debatable seasons and stuff.
Well, there's two different things we're going to do. So I'll get to another one first, and then I'll talk about what you're talking about. So we've done this in the past, and it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm going to run through all the seasons because in college football, I do not believe that many of the national championships were fairly decided. People were voting. Um, and so, anyway, we've done that in the past, revised national championships, and I'm going to run through videos where I go year by year by year by year and break down the scenario in terms of um, who was unfairly discarded, unfairly not evaluated properly, and so that's one thing. But because that kind of plays into what you're talking about, so May is great debate month at the Voice of College Football, and we're going to run through all sorts of debates. So if anybody out there has a debate that you want to see waged, let me give you an example. 1997 was the last split national championship. Nebraska went undefeated. They, of course, won a national championship in one poll. Michigan won the other national championship in the other poll. They went undefeated. Who would have won the game? Who was the more deserving national champion? Things like that. Any great debates that you can come up with. And certainly, since most of you guys are West Virginia fans, we want to get some of the West Virginia flavor involved too. And Joey and I were talking the other day, and we certainly think that a great conversation is the 1988 National Championship Fiesta Bowl game against Notre Dame. Major Harris, unfortunately, knocked out pretty early in that game. And, what might have happened had West Virginia been able to secure a national championship and go on. And who knows how that would have impacted perception, recruiting, all sorts of things for West Virginia football. And then just only 5 years later, of course, they're sitting there undefeated. And so is Nebraska. Florida State went to Notre Dame, lost a game, still got the second place standing that set up the national championship matchup in the Orange Bowl with Nebraska. So West Virginia got bypassed despite an undefeated season, regular season in 1993.
Right. And if we would have won the game in 88, if Major Harris could have stayed healthy, and we could have beat Notre Dame. And that was a tall task, right? Notre Dame was a really good team. You're talking about Rocket Ismail and people like that being on that team. They were a great team. So, but let's say Major Harris doesn't get hurt and we win that game. In 93, we would not have been looked over to play for the national championship. We would have been playing Nebraska that year. There's no doubt.
I believe so.
Yeah. So, let's see. We got another question coming in here. Josh Basin. What programs bother West Virginia with their integration into the Big 12? With the Big 12 pick off Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State? I ain't speculating. I don't like speculation. Could it happen? Yes. Could those four corner teams come to the Big 12? Absolutely, they could. As far as West Virginia and their integration into the Big 12, the toughest thing for the program is to travel. It's not easy to go to Lubbock, Texas. It's not easy to get out of Morgantown, right? There's no big international airport there, right? You got to get out of Morgantown. You got to get on a bus. You got to go to Pittsburgh, and then you got to fly somewhere. There's no direct flights into Ames, Iowa. There's no direct flights into Lubbock, Texas. You're flying, you're changing planes, you're busing into these stadiums. So yes, and plus there's the time change. So you're getting on a bus in Morgantown on Thursday. You're taking it to Pittsburgh. You're leaving Pittsburgh, flying into to Texas, and you're maybe getting off a bus in Texas that night, going to a hotel in Lubbock, Texas, getting up on Friday morning, going to practice, getting time adjusted and stuff because of the time change. Saturday, kicking the ball off and going to playing football. Sunday, getting on a plane and coming back home, spending the whole day traveling back home because you got 2 bus rides plus plane rides. So yes, there are some big transitions coming for teams like Cincinnati, but fortunately, Cincinnati's got an international airport right there, right? Now it's not in Cincinnati; it's right there in Hebron, Kentucky, but it's Cincinnati Airport. It's 10 minutes down the road compared to Morgantown's 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. So there's a difference there. But there's going to be some integration problems for all these teams. UCF and Cincinnati going into these places and learning to play football in the Big 12. It's a different kind of beast when you're on the road like that. Josh Bazin says Big Ten concerned Notre Dame with the NBC college football contract. Cornered Notre Dame with the NBC college football contract. Yeah. Well, that's West Virginia's show. I'm not going to get into Notre Dame too much, but like I said, Notre Dame, they've had their opportunities to join conferences. They've stayed out this long. I don't foresee them just all of a sudden saying, hey, we're going to join the Big Ten. You can say, okay, USC and UCLA are going there all you want to. They could take on Oregon and Washington as well. Notre Dame's pretty happy being independent. There's some bad blood between Notre Dame and Michigan. Well, we don't know how deep that goes, but I can tell you it's pretty deep. There's some bad blood between Notre Dame and Miami. So that's probably runs deep still to this day. Convicts versus criminals, right? Or Catholics versus convicts. That's what it was. Catholics versus convicts. So you've got bad blood in the ACC and the Big Ten for Notre Dame, and that I don't see them joining the conference. John Kelly, happy anniversary, Joey, and hi, Mark. Thank you, John. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Appreciate that. College football is all politics in the polling, Josh Basin. To an extent, it is. Harry Legg, Nebraska would have stomped Michigan in 97. Well, how do you feel about that, Mark?
But, I don't know who would have won that game, and I think it's ridiculous, and it's, I am guessing that Harry's a Nebraska fan because what are you typically going to get? I go through these kind of debates all the time. The Nebraska fans say that they would have won the game, and the Michigan fans say that they would have won the game. And between everybody else that's not a fan of either one, it's pretty much split. Because if you look at the season, Michigan played a better schedule. Michigan played better throughout parts of that schedule. Nebraska had one of the most infamous lucky plays fall into their lap in the history of college football, or they would have lost to Missouri. Ball get kicked in the air off somebody's shoe, or they would have lost the game. They would have, if you want to look up a lucky play, because I usually don't say much about luck, but look up the 1997 Missouri Nebraska game and the ball that got kicked up in the air by a shoe. Otherwise, the game's over. On the other hand, Nebraska played better at the end of the season. They dominated at the end of the year. Michigan beat a tremendous Ohio State team the last game of the season, but they barely got by Washington State in the Rose Bowl. And meanwhile, Nebraska trucked Tennessee. And that's what people remember. People that think, okay, Nebraska was the better team. I get it, because at the end of the year, they were playing better, at least in that bowl game. So depending on what point in the season they would have played, I think they were both great teams. They both earned a national championship.
Yeah. Harry Legg, I'm thinking, and he can correct me here. I think he's actually a Georgia fan. Okay. I think he's just trolling, because I think he's actually a Georgia fan. Yeah.
He can have his opinion. I have no issue with that. It's just nobody can say for sure, obviously, but everybody can have their opinion. My opinion is I have no idea. There are other hypothetical matchups that if you threw them at me, I would say, well, I believe so-and-so would have won. But that game, I don't know.
Josh Mason says Charleston, West Virginia Airport. As a question, Charleston is 3 hours away from Morgantown. About 3.5 hours away from Morgantown. Clint Moses says, go Beavs. Josh Mason, who's the best of you offensive, defensive, and special team players this year? Best offensive player this year, C.J. Donaldson, running back. Best defensive player, I think it's yet to be determined. I really do. I think it's yet to be determined. I think we got Jacoby Spells. I think Jacoby Spells is going to be a really good cornerback for us. But I think the defense is still up in the air. Special teams is really up in the air. I have no idea on special teams. We got such a young team at West Virginia that half the names in the spring game today I didn't even recognize, because they're all freshmen and welcome. We've got so many true freshmen and redshirt freshmen on this team. It's not even funny. So
look out for Sean Martin, and look out
yeah,
for the cornerback that came in from Minnesota, who had a really good year in the Big Ten last year.
Quentin Moses says almost 7, absolutely. And yes, I was right about Harry Legg. He says he was just trolling.
You're good.
I'm looking down through to see if anybody's got any more West Virginia questions. But Harry Legg does tell you that it would have been a great game to watch. And Clint Moses says exactly 2 great teams that never met, robbing the fan all for expanded college football playoff to see this kind of matchups. And so Josh says Morgantown, West Virginia Airport. Yeah, well, they're expanding that, but not by a lot. And actually, they expanded the airport in, I think it's more Bridgeport Airport. I think they call it Clarksburg Airport, but it's more in Bridgeport, West Virginia, which is just 20 minutes down the road from Morgantown. They expanded that airport, but you're still not going to land. I don't think you're going to land a 747 there. You know. So, Harry Legg, I'm a fan of college football. Who's a dog? Yeah, I thought he was a Georgia fan. I go back before Vince Dooley was hired. Yeah. And then Felipe Garcia, thanks for being here. He says, I was 16. That was crazy. I lived in Florida, went to a friend's house, and everyone there was shocked that Missouri had an opportunity to make one of the greatest upsets of all time. So, all right, anybody have any more West Virginia questions? This is a West Virginia show, guys. The West Virginia post-game show. Mark, are you going to go live tonight later on or anything? Or
I've looked at a lot of these spring games. I have been working on videos for all these commitments. Alabama got a big commit today. USC, Oklahoma. I can't remember who else. I just knocked out about 6 videos with commitment videos for the various team channels. And I might have something to say about Deion Sanders in Colorado and their spring game today. We shall see, but I don't know if I'm going to go live.
Josh is asking, what is your predicted score for West Virginia at Penn State night game? Thank you for West Virginia information. My predicted score, it's early. It's way too early because there's going to be players after today at West Virginia that hit the transfer portal. It's only logical, right? They're doing it everywhere, right after the spring game. Heck, Georgia lost a player 20 minutes before their spring game the other day. So it's just going to happen. There's going to be players that leave. There's going to be players that enter the program. So that anything could change. But right now, if they played right now, like I said, I am really high on Penn State this year. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm extremely high on Penn State this year. I think Penn State would easily beat West Virginia 42-17, something like that, in my opinion.
Penn State's going to have one of the top 5 to 10 teams in the country. We would expect. I can only base it on what we saw last year, and then make those additions and subtractions from who's jumping on these teams and who's leaving. And we don't know that for sure yet. Like Joey just said, we've got another couple weeks of transfer portal, and then that could even extend into. So the transfer portal is going to just be open for a couple more weeks, but there are going to be players that are going to jump into the transfer portal, but not make an announcement until maybe June, July, something in that range for particular players. Charlie Jones, one of the best wide receivers in the country, who will be in the NFL draft this year. Last year left Iowa, went to Purdue, ended up catching over 100 passes last year. He didn't decide until almost July where he was headed. So there's going to be some flux. We're going to see most of it in the next few weeks, but some of it's going to trail into the summer. But I think West Virginia may keep this one competitive. But again, I don't make predictions until game week, but I'm going to go more in the 37-24 range.
Yeah, that's good score prediction too. So John had a thing here that says the dual threat offense is more traditional based on what we have on hand, which is a run first quarterback. Even though Green had some nice throws today, his best win was OU last year. Yeah, but a lot of teams beat OU last year. They had a really down year. So I look, is it great to beat Oklahoma last year? Yes. I'm not taking anything away from that game. Both teams were terrible. West Virginia and Oklahoma, both teams were terrible last year. West Virginia just turned out to be a little bit better that day. Walk-off field goal to win the game. The year before, in 2021, walk-off field goal in Oklahoma for Oklahoma to win. Is it West Virginia and Oklahoma always have great games, right? I mean, and it doesn't matter how good one team is or how bad the other team is. These games go back to 2012. Anybody remember that game, Tavon Austin, 350 yards rushing against Oklahoma? Does anybody remember that? I mean, that was an amazing game. So, 2018, back and forth between two great quarterbacks, and 56-55, I think, final score of the game.
Yeah, something.
We've had great games all through the years. So beating Oklahoma, though, yes, that was a huge hurdle to get over, but unfortunately, it was two bad teams. So I'd like it better if both teams were undefeated and West Virginia would beat them. So Josh saying exactly on the prediction score is what he thinks too. West Virginia's the ACC Phillips says. All right, listen, I don't know if John's still in here or not. I don't have no way to do it. If somebody could, if we have a mod in here, grab the West Virginia link and throw it in for us if you would. The link's to the West Virginia channel. If you're not subscribed up to our West Virginia channel, we're at 900 subscribers over there. We want to get it to 1,000. So if you can help us push it to 1,000, you can go over and unsubscribe after that. Maybe you're not a West Virginia fan. If you're not, I really appreciate you being here today with us. If you're not a West Virginia fan, but if you're not, would you do me a favor and just go over and sub up our West Virginia channel? I can put the link up on the screen. I can do that because I put it at the beginning of the chat, but I can't get back. I can't get back to it now.
I'll get to it, Joey.
But anyway, yes, anybody that's not a subscriber to the West Virginia channel, please sub it up for us. We appreciate you. Tell your friends and family, sub it up for us. Help us get that thing to 1,000 so we can monetize that channel, and then you guys can go and unsubscribe. But that's about all I have for today, Mark. We had a great spring game. Mark, you got anything else to add?
I don't, other than I've got all sorts of content that's coming out here soon. Somebody gave me the idea to match up some of these teams that are being rumored to go to various conferences, and the videos aren't about me trying to figure out whether the Four Corner schools in the Pac-12 are going to go to the Big 12. I do not believe that's going to happen. I may be wrong. It's possible, like Joey said earlier. It is possible. Don't believe that's going to happen, but wanted to really dive into whether we got to take this phone call here in a second, but whether how those teams are going to match up in their new conferences. So be looking out for that series. I've already started it, so check those out.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Hey, listen, I appreciate everybody being here. Final score of the West Virginia spring game today, gold 56, blue 51. Looked great on both sides of the ball. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Go back and watch the spring game on YouTube. They've got it up if you'd like to see it. Everyone have a great day, and we will see you guys next Friday night, 8 o'clock. I'm going to try to put a video out this week, too, on the West Virginia channel. But next Friday night, 8 o'clock, we will have our live show. Be sure and tune in then. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you later.